From the earliest days, Hitler's regime tied ideology to economics. Anti-Semitism was not only a political tool but also a pathway to expropriating wealth. Jewish businesses, banks, and families became targets for forced seizure. Wealth confiscated from these groups helped finance the Nazi state while simultaneously erasing cultural and economic foundations of entire communities. Before starting our video, if you love to watch history-related stories about World War II, please subscribe to our channel and like the video, so it helps me to make more good quality videos for you. The story started. The Nazis also viewed art, antiquities, and cultural artifacts as symbols of dominance. Hitler himself fancied the creation of a Führer Museum in Linz, Austria, a repository of stolen European art. To fulfill this dream, the Einsatzstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg, ERR, a Nazi organization, was established to locate and seize cultural treasures from occupied countries. Even before the outbreak of World War II, the Nazis began systematic theft. In Germany, Jewish businesses were Aryanized, transferred forcibly to non-Jewish ownership at bargain prices or outright confiscated. Private gold, jewelry, and bank holdings were seized, often under threat of imprisonment or deportation. The Reichsbank played a central role. Gold confiscated from private citizens and foreign nationals was melted and added to Germany's reserves. By the late 1930s, Germany had amassed a substantial hoard, including gold, silver, and precious stones. With the invasion of Poland in 1939, Nazi looting escalated dramatically. Entire banks, vaults, and private homes were emptied. Poland, with its rich Jewish population and significant gold reserves, became one of the first major targets. The Nazis developed an efficient bureaucratic system to catalog and transport stolen goods. Gold bars, coins, jewelry, and rare artifacts were meticulously documented, although much was diverted into private accounts of Nazi officials. As Germany expanded into Western Europe, Belgium, France, the Netherlands, the looting machinery grew more sophisticated. Artworks from museums and private collections were requisitioned, with the ERR shipping tens of thousands of pieces back to Germany. Stolen treasure was not merely symbolic. It funded the Nazi war effort. The Reichsbank accepted gold and other assets, often melting coins and ingots to create a standardized reserve. Currency looted from occupied countries was used to pay German troops and finance military campaigns. Some of the most infamous cases include the Belgian gold reserves. Transported to Germany in 1940, this gold financed part of the early war effort. Central European banks, Czechoslovakia and Austria provided vast amounts of bullion and valuables. By 1941, the Nazi treasure hoard had grown into an enormous collection, worth billions in today's terms, much of which would vanish in the chaos of the final years of the war. Behind the glittering gold and priceless art lay unimaginable suffering. Looting was intertwined with persecution, forced labor, and mass murder. Jewish communities, political prisoners, and occupied populations were stripped of property before many were sent to concentration camps. The Nazis' obsession with treasure was not just economic. It was ideological. Stealing wealth symbolized the complete subjugation of conquered peoples, erasing their history, culture, and dignity. By 1941, Nazi Germany had transformed from a regional threat into a sprawling European empire. The invasions of Yugoslavia, Greece, and especially the Soviet Union opened new avenues for plunder. The Reich's hunger for treasure was insatiable, and the bureaucratic machinery for theft grew more complex and ruthless. The loot was no longer just German-centric. It became a pan-European operation, targeting entire nations' wealth, art, and cultural history. In June 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the massive invasion of the Soviet Union. The military strategy was brutal, but the Nazis were also systematic in seizing the enormous wealth of the occupied territories. Banks were raided, gold reserves stolen, and cultural artifacts catalogued and shipped west. Significant points: Soviet gold reserves. Millions of rubles, bullion, and precious metals were seized from regional banks and central vaults. Jewish communities. In addition to their tragic persecution, Jewish families' valuables were systematically confiscated. Art and museums. Entire museum collections, including icons, paintings, and sculptures, were looted and transported to Germany. The ERR, Einsatzstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg, played a central role in cataloging and moving the loot, often creating inventories that remain historical records of what was stolen. One of the most infamous Nazi loot operations occurred in Hungary, 1944–45, though its origins trace to earlier years. Hungary's Jewish population was targeted, with assets seized en masse. The Hungarian gold train became a symbol of Nazi plunder, loaded with gold, jewelry, and artwork confiscated from Hungarian Jews, intended to transport treasures to Germany as the Soviets advanced. After the war, the train's contents largely disappeared under mysterious circumstances, sparking decades-long investigations. This operation exemplifies the scale and secrecy of Nazi treasure logistics, coordinated theft, massive shipments, and post-war disappearance. Meanwhile, in Western Europe, Italy, after Mussolini's fall in 1943, Germany occupied northern Italy. The Nazis looted banks, private homes, and art from Italian families and Jewish communities. France. Nazi officials seized gold from the Banque de France and private collectors. Artworks from French museums and Jewish families were taken, many ending up in the planned Linz Führer Museum or secret caches in Austria and Germany. The scale of theft extended beyond gold. Fabrics, silverware, antiques, and even industrial machinery were appropriated for the war effort. The looting operations were not conducted by soldiers alone. Nazi officials enlisted, collaborating local governments and banks to identify wealthy families and assets. Bankers who secretly facilitated the transfer of gold and valuables into Germany. Logistics experts who helped conceal shipments in mines, castles, and even abandoned castles in Bavaria and Austria. This bureaucratic and logistical sophistication allowed the Nazis to maintain secrecy, even as the Allies advanced closer to Germany. While much of the treasure went to fund the Reich, some looted wealth ended up in the pockets of Nazi leaders. Hitler, Himmler, Göring, and other top officials accumulated personal hoards of gold, art, and jewelry. Göring, for instance, was notorious for his extravagant collections of art and jewels. These personal stashes often became part of the post-war mysteries, as Allied forces discovered some caches while others disappeared entirely. The overlap between official and personal plunder created confusion, making it difficult to track which treasures were state property and which were private spoils. The expansion of loot in Eastern and Western Europe coincided with mass murder, deportation, and forced labor. Looting was inseparable from the Holocaust. While families were sent to concentration camps, their homes, jewelry, and valuables were confiscated. Some examples: gold dental fillings removed from corpses in concentration camps, jewelry taken from transported prisoners, personal possessions catalogued and sent to Reichsbank or elite Nazi officials. The human tragedy of theft underscores that this was not mere greed, it was part of the machinery of oppression and genocide. By 1943, the Allies had begun advancing on multiple fronts. The Nazis became increasingly secretive. Gold was moved to mines in the Harz Mountains, Austrian castles, and even salt mines in Germany. Trains, trucks, and concealed storage units were used to evade detection. Documents suggest that some loot was hidden in tunnels and secret chambers intended to survive even a total defeat. These hidden caches would become central to post-war legends about Hitler's lost treasure. 1943 marked a turning point. While the Nazis had amassed enormous wealth, the tide of war began to turn against them. The defeat at Stalingrad signaled the beginning of Germany's retreat from the east. Loot became harder to transport. Some treasures were abandoned, buried, or destroyed to prevent Allied capture. This period sowed the seeds of the lost treasure myths. Items vanished in chaos, leaving mysteries that persist today. By 1944, the Nazi Empire was crumbling. Allied forces were advancing from the west, and the Soviets were pushing in from the east. Faced with imminent defeat, Hitler and his inner circle grew desperate. Looted treasures, which had funded their conquests and personal wealth, now became objects to hide, transport, or destroy. This period marks the beginning of the enduring mystery of Hitler's lost treasure. As Soviet forces advanced into Poland, Hungary, and Romania, looted gold, jewelry, and valuables were hastily moved westward. Trains carrying treasures were rerouted, abandoned, or destroyed. Local collaborators sometimes intercepted or stole treasures, adding to the confusion. In many cases, looting operations were conducted alongside military retreats, creating a chaotic network of hidden caches, abandoned shipments, and secret stashes. By late 1944, top Nazis took personal control of treasure concealment. Hermann Göring attempted to hide his art collection and gold in Bavarian castles. Heinrich Himmler stockpiled valuables intended for a Nazi last-stand refuge. Martin Bormann reportedly oversaw the movement of Reich assets into secure underground locations. Orders were given to destroy records and move valuables to locations believed to be safe from Allied discovery. Several key locations are associated with the last phase of treasure hiding. Alps Sea salt mines, Austria, stored priceless artworks from all over Europe, including paintings from France and the Netherlands. Harz Mountains, Germany mines and tunnels were used to hide gold and currency. Bavarian castles. Many treasures were brought to remote castles in southern Germany and Austria, often hidden in walls, floors, and secret rooms. The secrecy and complexity of these storage methods ensured that even when Allied forces discovered some caches, many treasures vanished without trace. One of the most famous Allied discoveries occurred in April 1945 at the Merkers salt mine in Thuringia, Germany, contained over 100 tons of gold, currency, and priceless artwork. Allied forces, led by General Patton, uncovered vast hoards previously thought lost. Some treasures were returned to their countries of origin, while others were sent to Allied banks for safekeeping. The Merkers mine discovery was monumental but highlighted how much treasure had already disappeared or been moved. Many treasures were transported using trains loaded with gold and valuables from occupied territories, trucks carrying art and personal collections of Nazi leaders, abandoned vehicles in forests and fields as retreats accelerated. Some of these shipments were intercepted by locals, scavengers, or Allied forces. Others disappeared entirely, fueling decades of speculation. Rumors began circulating that some treasures were secretly transported to South America. Argentina, Chile, and Brazil were considered safe havens for fleeing Nazis. Some gold and valuables reportedly left Europe via secret flights, submarines, or ships. Investigations post-war hinted at large caches ending up in private banks, though few were ever recovered. These legends fueled conspiracy theories that persist today about Hitler's secret wealth. One of the most famous missing treasures is the Amber Room, a priceless chamber of amber panels, gold, and mirrors from Russia, looted by the Nazis in 1941 from Königsberg. Intended for Hitler's Linz Museum but vanished by 1945. Despite numerous searches, its location remains a mystery, symbolizing the many treasures lost at the war's end. The Amber Room remains the crown jewel of the Nazi treasure mythos. As Berlin fell in April 1945 and Hitler committed suicide, records of treasure locations were destroyed. Many caches were abandoned in haste or deliberately hidden. Loot became fragmented, some recovered by locals, soldiers, or Allied forces, and some lost forever. The combination of secrecy, destruction, and wartime chaos created an enduring historical mystery. Immediately after the war, Allied forces conducted Operation Safe Haven to recover Nazi gold and art. Countries like France, Belgium, and the Netherlands reclaimed stolen treasures. However, huge portions were missing, including private hoards of Göring, Bormann, and other Nazi officials. Many recovered treasures were used to compensate victims of Nazi theft, while others remained unclaimed or undocumented. The disappearance of vast treasures created an aura of legend. Stories of hidden gold in alpine bunkers circulated. Treasure hunters, historians, and looters began searching across Europe. Rumors of treasures in South America, secret mines, and sunken ships became widespread. The combination of documented theft and unsolved mysteries made Hitler's treasure one of the most enduring legends of the 20th century. The war had ended, but the story of Nazi plunder was far from over. As Allied forces occupied Germany and Austria, the full extent of the Third Reich's theft became apparent. Millions in gold, priceless art, and other valuables were missing. What remained was a chaotic landscape of recovered treasures, hidden stashes, and tantalizing mysteries that would intrigue historians, governments, and treasure hunters for decades. The Allies launched a series of operations to locate and recover Nazi loot. Monuments, Fine Arts and Archives Program, MFAA, a team of art historians and soldiers, known as the Monuments Men, sought stolen artworks across Europe. Operation Safe Haven aimed to track Nazi assets, prevent their escape to neutral countries, and recover looted gold and valuables. Bank and Treasury investigations. Allied officials examined Reichsbank records to determine the flow of stolen wealth. Through these efforts, many treasures were returned to their countries of origin. But the enormity of missing items highlighted the extent of Nazi plunder. Several discoveries captured international attention. Merker's mine, Thuringia, containing over 100 tons of gold, currency, and artwork, recovered by U.S. forces. Baltic Sea salt mines, Austria stored paintings, gold, and other valuables looted from France and the Netherlands. Allied forces secured the treasure and returned many works to rightful owners. Munich, Nuremberg, and Bavarian castles. Smaller caches, personal collections of Nazi leaders, and hidden gold were recovered, though documentation was incomplete. These discoveries provided a glimpse into the scale of Nazi theft but also raised questions about what remained hidden. To trace missing treasures, Allied intelligence interrogated Nazi officials. Hermann Göring and other captured leaders were questioned about hidden caches. Some revealed partial information, but many hoards were never fully disclosed. Martin Bormann, who disappeared at the war's end, was rumored to have concealed vast quantities of gold. The lack of complete documentation meant that significant portions of Nazi plunder were never recovered, leaving gaps that fueled decades of speculation. Other European countries conducted their own recovery efforts. France. The Louvre and other museums reclaimed looted artworks. Private collectors received compensation where possible. Belgium. Gold reserves and personal valuables taken during the occupation were partially recovered. Netherlands and Poland. Thousands of artworks and valuables were returned to rightful owners, though some remained lost. Despite successes, many treasures, particularly personal collections of Nazi officials, remained missing or hidden. Even as recoveries progressed, rumors of missing gold persisted, allegedly buried in forests, mines, and secret bunkers across Germany and Austria. Some hoards supposedly moved to South America via submarines or secret flights. Local legends emerged, creating a culture of treasure hunting and speculation. These stories often blurred fact and fiction, making it difficult to separate verified recoveries from myth. The missing Nazi treasure quickly became fertile ground for conspiracy theories. Tales of Hitler escaping with gold and valuables circulated in newspapers. Reports of secret Alpine bunkers filled with treasure fueled treasure hunters and popular media. Claims of hidden caches in Switzerland, Argentina, and Brazil suggested that Nazi wealth might survive the war indefinitely. These early theories, though unverified, shaped public imagination and historical discourse for decades. Recovering Nazi loot was not straightforward. Many valuables were transferred through banks in neutral countries, creating diplomatic hurdles. Disputes arose over ownership, personal collections of Nazi leaders versus state property. Compensation to victims of Nazi theft required careful verification, adding bureaucratic complexity. These legal challenges slowed recovery and allowed some treasure to remain hidden. The post-war treasure investigations had both practical and symbolic importance. Returning looted art and gold was a form of restitution for war victims. Recoveries helped rebuild national treasuries and institutions. The investigations revealed the staggering scale of Nazi plunder, demonstrating how wealth had been weaponized during the war. Despite these successes, the lingering question remained: how much treasure was still unaccounted for? By the late 1940s, civilians and adventurers began searching for hidden Nazi treasures. Mines, forests, and castles were scoured based on rumors and partial intelligence. Some discovered small caches of gold or art, while others found nothing. These early efforts contributed to the mythos of Hitler's lost treasure, mixing history with legend. The allure of untold wealth drew explorers, historians, and thrill-seekers alike. By 1950, much of the Nazi loot had been documented and recovered, but a significant portion remained missing. Secret personal stashes of Nazi leaders were never fully recovered. Some caches may have been moved overseas or hidden in undisclosed locations. The combination of incomplete records, destroyed evidence, and wartime chaos created the enduring mystery. The foundation for modern investigations, conspiracy theories, and treasure hunts was laid, keeping the story of Hitler's lost treasure alive for generations. The immediate post-war years marked the first wave of recovery and investigation. While many treasures were reclaimed and returned, countless others vanished, giving birth to the legends, rumors, and conspiracies that continue today. The story of Nazi gold was no longer just history. It became a mystery that spanned continents and decades. By the 1950s, much of Nazi Germany's looted treasure had been partially recovered, but the war's chaos had ensured that countless valuables were still missing. Over the next 2 decades, the story of Hitler's lost treasure became a combination of documented history and legend. Treasure hunters, historians, and conspiracy theorists all contributed to a growing mythology about the fate of Nazi gold and art. Europe was slowly rebuilding after the devastation of World War II, but the mystery of missing Nazi gold remained. Mines, castles, and hidden vaults in Germany, Austria, and Poland were frequently searched. Some treasures turned up in small caches, while larger quantities remained undiscovered. Governments struggled to track looted assets that had been moved, sold, or destroyed during the final months of the war. These years demonstrated that the war's thefts were far larger and more complex than initially thought. Civilian treasure hunters and adventurers emerged in the 1950s and 1960s. Using old wartime maps, local legends, and partial intelligence, explorers scoured mines, forests, and abandoned bunkers. Many searches yielded small quantities of gold, coins, and jewelry. Others found nothing, fueling speculation that some of Hitler's treasure had vanished entirely. Treasure hunting became a cultural phenomenon in Europe, blending history, adventure, and rumor. Rumors and occasional evidence suggested that some Nazi treasures made their way to South America. Argentina, Brazil, and Chile were destinations for fleeing Nazis, including Adolf Eichmann and Joseph Mengele. Claims surfaced of gold, artworks, and valuables being shipped via submarines, ships, or secret flights. Some historians suggest that certain treasures may have been stashed in private vaults or hidden estates. Though evidence is sparse, these stories gave rise to decades of speculation about Hitler's escape wealth. Despite the myths, some genuine recoveries continued. Mines in Bavaria and Austria occasionally revealed hidden caches. Artwork stolen from France, Belgium, and the Netherlands were returned to museums or private owners. Coins, jewelry, and currency were recovered in small quantities, often discovered by locals or treasure hunters exploring abandoned bunkers. These discoveries kept public attention on the mystery of Nazi gold alive. Allied and European governments continued investigations. Interpol coordinated some efforts to trace stolen gold, art, and valuables. Swiss banks were scrutinized for accounts allegedly holding Nazi gold. U.S. and British intelligence monitored rumors of South American treasure movements. The partial secrecy of these operations fueled public curiosity and conspiracy theories. Several legendary, lost treasure cases emerged during this period. The Nazi gold in the Alps. Rumors persisted that Hitler's personal gold and art were hidden in secret Alpine bunkers. The Amber Room. Despite repeated searches, it remained lost, feeding global fascination. Submerged treasures. Stories circulated of Nazi gold being sunk in rivers or lakes in Germany and occupied countries to prevent Allied capture. These tales blurred the line between fact and legend. The mystery of Hitler's treasure captured imagination worldwide. Books, magazines, and newspapers chronicled discoveries and rumors. Treasure hunters' exploits inspired documentaries and adventure stories. The allure of secret Nazi gold became a cultural icon, symbolizing both the greed and the chaos of the Third Reich. Legends of hidden treasure in remote locations became a recurring theme in popular media. Recovering Nazi treasure in this period faced numerous obstacles. Many caches had been looted, moved, or destroyed. Documentation was incomplete. Many records had been burned or lost. Governments often lacked the resources or authority to pursue small caches hidden in remote locations. As a result, a significant portion of Nazi wealth remained untraceable. Top Nazi officials' personal collections remained a major focus. Göring's art collection was partially recovered, but some pieces vanished. Bormann's rumored hoards became legendary, with conflicting reports of gold hidden in Germany, Austria, and even South America. Hitler's personal treasures, if any existed beyond documented art and currency, remained entirely speculative. These rumors cemented the notion of a lost Nazi treasure that might never be fully recovered. By the end of the 1970s, historians had documented many recoveries, but large quantities of looted gold, artwork, and valuables remained missing. Conspiracy theories, legends, and treasure hunting continued across Europe and South America. The combination of historical fact and rumor created an enduring narrative that continues to capture imagination today. The stage was set for modern investigations, including forensic studies, satellite searches, and renewed treasure hunts that would dominate the late 20th and early 21st centuries. The 1950s, 1970s solidified the mystery of Hitler's lost treasure. While post-war recoveries were significant, myths, legends, and unverified rumors kept the story alive. Treasure hunters, historians, and conspiracy theorists carried the torch of curiosity, bridging history and adventure, and ensuring that the search for Nazi gold remained an enduring fascination. By the 1980s, the search for Nazi treasures entered a new phase. Decades of rumors, incomplete records, and treasure hunter expeditions had laid the groundwork for modern investigations. Advances in technology, greater access to archives, and high-profile media coverage renewed interest in Hitler's lost gold, artworks, and valuables. Interest in lost Nazi gold surged due to several factors. Declassification of wartime records. Allied and German archives became more accessible. Media coverage. Newspapers, books, and documentaries highlighted missing treasures and rumored caches. Economic value. Gold and looted artworks represented immense wealth, motivating governments and private collectors to search for them. The search became more systematic, blending historical research with modern investigative techniques. Some notable finds during this period included recovered artworks from Austria and Bavaria. Paintings stolen from France, the Netherlands, and Poland were located in abandoned bunkers, castles, and mines. Gold caches in Germany. Small quantities of gold and coins were discovered by local authorities and treasure hunters. The rediscovery of hidden bank accounts. Swiss and European banks were investigated for assets linked to Nazi officials. These discoveries reinforced the idea that significant portions of Nazi wealth remained hidden. Modern methods improved recovery efforts. Ground-penetrating radar and metal detectors were employed to locate buried caches. Forensic accounting traced missing gold and valuables through wartime financial records. Archival research uncovered shipping logs, train records, and banking transactions previously overlooked. While technology aided discoveries, many caches remained elusive, hidden in inaccessible or destroyed locations. Theories of Nazi treasure in South America gained renewed attention. Reports suggested that fleeing Nazis transported gold, art, and documents to Argentina, Chile, and Brazil. Some treasure hunters claimed to locate hidden stashes in private estates, though verification was difficult. Rumors of secret Nazi financial networks in South America fueled decades of speculation. Though largely unproven, these claims kept international intrigue alive. The Amber Room remained a central obsession. Researchers used archival documents, photographs, and eyewitness accounts to track its disappearance. Searches extended to Königsberg, Germany, and even sunken locations in the Baltic Sea. Despite extensive efforts, the Amber Room remained missing, symbolizing the mystery and allure of lost Nazi treasures. The search highlighted both the challenges of wartime recovery and the intersection of history and legend. Governments continued to coordinate on Nazi treasure. International agreements ensured looted artworks were returned to rightful owners or museums. Claims were filed against banks suspected of holding stolen gold. Legal frameworks evolved to address restitution for victims and heirs decades after the war. These efforts helped recover some treasures, but bureaucratic challenges and incomplete documentation left many unresolved cases. Private adventurers and researchers played a major role. Expeditions targeted forests, mines, and castles across Germany and Austria. Some located minor caches of gold, jewelry, or currency. Others claimed discoveries that could not be verified, fueling legends and speculation. The combination of private and governmental searches blurred the line between historical research and adventurous treasure hunting. Books, documentaries, and films brought Hitler's lost treasure to public attention. Stories of secret Alpine bunkers and hidden gold captured imagination worldwide. Treasure hunting expeditions were broadcast on television, creating a new generation of enthusiasts. Media coverage ensured that even small discoveries were magnified into international news. Popular culture reinforced the idea that a significant portion of Nazi wealth might still be hidden. Despite decades of research, large quantities of gold, artwork, and valuables remained unaccounted for. Some caches may have been moved overseas or looted by local populations in the final days of the war. Conflicting reports from eyewitnesses, wartime documents, and treasure hunters made verification difficult. The lack of definitive answers perpetuated the mythos of Hitler's lost treasure. By the end of the 20th century, many small treasures had been recovered and returned to museums or governments. Legends of hidden Nazi gold, secret hoards, and the Amber Room remained unresolved. The story of Hitler's lost treasure transitioned from a historical issue to an enduring global mystery, inspiring research, exploration, and imagination. The stage was set for the 21st century, where modern technology, forensic science, and global investigations would continue the search for lost Nazi wealth. The 1980s and 1990s reignited the hunt for Hitler's lost treasure. Modern techniques, high-profile discoveries, and persistent legends ensured that Nazi gold remained one of the most enduring and intriguing mysteries of the modern era. While much had been recovered, the true scale of the missing treasure remained elusive, leaving historians and adventurers alike searching for answers. The turn of the 21st century brought new tools and renewed interest in the mystery of Nazi treasure. Historians, governments, and private researchers leveraged technology, digitized archives, and satellite imagery to track lost gold, art, and valuables. While some discoveries were made, many treasures remained elusive, keeping the legend alive. Governments and research institutions began digitizing wartime records. Allied and German archives released shipping logs, bank records, and inventories of looted valuables. This enabled historians to track movements of gold, artworks, and other treasures more precisely. Previously unknown transport routes and hidden locations were identified, prompting new searches in Europe and beyond. Digitization allowed scholars and treasure hunters worldwide to collaborate and share information, greatly enhancing the scope of investigations. Several notable finds occurred in Germany, Austria, and Eastern Europe. Gold coins, bullion, and currency were discovered in abandoned mines, bunkers, and castles. Artworks looted from France, Belgium, and Poland were recovered from private collections and recovered museum caches. Investigations often combined archival research with on-the-ground exploration, confirming the movement and storage of Nazi treasures during the war. Despite these successes, the largest caches, including some associated with Hitler and Bormann, remained missing. South America continued to attract attention due to post-war Nazi migration. Investigators explored rumored hoards in Argentina, Chile, and Brazil. Some evidence suggested that private collections and hidden gold were stored in vaults or estates by former Nazis or their descendants. Few discoveries were publicly verified, but the rumors kept the legend of Nazi treasure in South America alive. The combination of historical fact and rumor made these searches both intriguing and difficult to confirm. New scientific approaches were applied. Metal detection and ground-penetrating radar revealed buried caches in forests, mountains, and mines. Chemical analysis identified gold and other metals in recovered objects. Forensic accounting traced financial flows and looted assets, sometimes uncovering missing gold or revealing the fate of stolen valuables. These methods allowed treasure hunters and researchers to refine their searches and validate findings with greater accuracy. Documentaries, television specials, and books brought global attention. Programs focused on Nazi gold, the Amber Room, and lost art captured audiences worldwide. Interviews with survivors, treasure hunters, and historians added credibility to legends and discoveries. Media exposure inspired a new generation of enthusiasts to investigate Nazi treasure. Popular culture ensured that Hitler's lost treasure remained an ongoing topic of fascination. The Amber Room remained the most famous missing treasure. Satellite searches and sonar scans were used to investigate possible locations in Königsberg and the Baltic Sea. Digital archives provided insight into the room's movements during the war. Despite repeated attempts, the Amber Room was never recovered, maintaining its status as the crown jewel of the Nazi treasure mystery. Many smaller discoveries emerged during this period. Coins, jewelry, and gold bars recovered in Europe occasionally appeared at auctions or were returned to governments. Some looted artworks surfaced in private collections, leading to restitution claims. These smaller recoveries demonstrated that treasure was still hidden in overlooked or forgotten locations. While minor, these discoveries reinforced the idea that Nazi gold and valuables were still out there. Global cooperation increased. Interpol coordinated searches and shared intelligence on stolen art and gold. Governments worked to recover looted assets from private collections or banks. Legal frameworks addressed restitution claims, compensating victims and heirs. International efforts highlighted the importance of collaboration in solving historical mysteries. Despite rigorous research, many rumors persisted. Alleged Alpine bunkers, South American caches, and sunken treasure remained popular. Some claimed that Hitler's personal gold had been secretly smuggled to unknown locations. While evidence was often circumstantial, these legends fueled public fascination and treasure hunting culture. These stories blurred the lines between history, myth, and adventure. By the 2010s, much of Nazi treasure had been documented and partially recovered, yet significant quantities of gold, valuables, and art remained missing. Technology allowed for more systematic searches, but the chaos of the war years made complete recovery nearly impossible. Hitler's lost treasure became a lasting symbol of wartime greed, mystery, and adventure. The story evolved into both a historical investigation and a global legend, inspiring research, documentaries, and treasure hunts worldwide. The 2000s, 2010s demonstrated that even decades after World War II, Hitler's lost treasure continued to capture global imagination. Technology, media, and international cooperation brought new discoveries, but the ultimate fate of many treasures remained unresolved. The legend of Nazi gold had transitioned from historical fact into enduring mystery, spanning continents and generations. The 2010s, 2020s brought a technological revolution to the hunt for Nazi gold and missing treasure. With drones, ground-penetrating radar, and digitized wartime documents, nations revisited old mysteries and made new discoveries. Meanwhile, high-profile cases in art museums reignited questions. Where did billions in Hitler's stolen wealth truly disappear to? One of the biggest modern treasure stories erupted in 2015. Two explorers in Poland claimed to have found a buried armored train. Radar suggested a massive metallic structure, rumored to contain gold, jewels, stolen art, and secret documents. Media attention exploded worldwide. But after months of excavation, nothing was confirmed. Some believe the treasure was moved before the Soviets arrived, or the train still lies deeper than scanners could reach. The myth only grew stronger. The search continued at sunken ships in the Baltic Sea. subterranean tunnels of Kaliningrad, formerly Königsberg, secret wartime bunkers in Poland and Germany. Researchers uncovered new eyewitness testimonies, hidden archives from Soviet intelligence, remnants of crates believed to have held amber room panels. Yet the masterpiece remained lost, still the world's most valuable missing treasure. The Gurlitt Hoard, 2013. Over 1,400 stolen artworks found in Munich, Picasso, Matisse, Monet. Hidden by the son of a Nazi art dealer. Museum recoveries. Paintings looted from Jewish families, French museums, Polish national collections were finally returned to rightful heirs. Each find raised a new question. How many more hoards like Gurlitt remain undiscovered? Investigators now use modern science to authenticate stolen gold by wartime serials, track ownership of jewels through microscopic marks, identify origins of unknown artworks. This transforms myths into verifiable facts or exposes long-held lies. New expeditions target buried salt mine chambers sealed by explosions, Alpine tunnels beneath Hitler's fortifications, submerged U-boats suspected of carrying treasure. Authorities now use drones, 3D underground mapping, deep-sea submersibles. What once was unreachable is now possible. Rumors of treasure smuggled by escaping Nazis still circulate. Argentine ranches with bunker-like structures, Chilean mountains with sealed caves, Brazilian estates linked to high-ranking SS fugitives. New leads emerged through declassified files from intelligence agencies, interviews with descendants of Nazi personnel. Truth or myth? Investigations continue, sometimes in secret. Modern forensic accountants discovered Nazi-linked wealth quietly protected in Swiss banks, funds laundered through post-war corporations, value possibly transferred into digital assets today. Meaning, Hitler's treasure may not be buried but banked. Treasure hunting has gone mainstream. TV expeditions, private-funded digs, online collaborative mapping, thousands of volunteers search forests, lakebeds, bombed cities. It has become the world's longest-running treasure hunt. Courts worldwide still review claims for looted art by Holocaust families, hidden bank accounts tied to Nazi officials, museum collections containing illicit war prizes. Each legal victory uncovers more missing pieces. Even with all this progress, tons of gold are still unaccounted for. Thousands of stolen artworks remain missing. Hitler's personal treasure chest has never been found. Every discovery raises more questions than answers. The hunt for Nazi treasure is more active today than at any time since 1945. With advanced technology and global cooperation, humanity is closer than ever. Yet the mystery remains unsolved. Whether buried in bunkers, resting in ocean depths, or hidden inside vaults protected by silence, Hitler's treasure continues to haunt the world. As the world entered the 2020s, the legend of Hitler's lost treasure entered a new era, one defined by artificial intelligence, satellite mapping, underwater robotics, and digitized archives. Historians, independent researchers, and treasure hunters now combine technology with 70 years of accumulated evidence. The result? New breakthroughs, renewed controversies, and even deeper mysteries. Artificial intelligence transformed the search for Nazi treasures. AI models analyzed millions of wartime documents, maps, and photos to identify patterns in troop movements and supply shipments. Machine learning detected hidden routes, likely gold transports, and areas matching buried bunker signatures. Some teams even used AI to cross-reference Allied bombing data with post-war excavation reports to find unsearched zones. In 2023, European researchers announced they had located 3 probable underground sites in Silesia and Bavaria, all consistent with Nazi gold transport records. Excavations continue under government supervision. Modern satellite imagery and drones gave unprecedented visibility to terrain once inaccessible. Thermal imaging identified metallic concentrations in forested areas of Poland and Czechia. LiDAR scanning revealed buried tunnel networks under mountains and castles. Drones equipped with radar explored flooded mine shafts and sealed caves once thought unreachable. One 2024 operation near Salzburg, Austria, discovered sealed tunnels containing wartime crates and machinery, believed to be from the last months of the Third Reich. Though no gold was confirmed, the find proved that untouched Nazi storage sites still exist. The Baltic has become a major focus of new exploration. Sonar imaging revealed several sunken ships consistent with Nazi evacuation convoys. Some vessels, such as the Karlsruhe wreck, were rumored to carry amber room panels and gold. Underwater ROVs explored these wrecks in 2022 to 2024, recovering artifacts but no definitive treasure. Still, the finds reignited interest in sunken gold trains and shipments evacuated from Königsberg before the Soviet advance in 1945. Digital forensic analysts have uncovered wartime financial trails once thought lost. Newly digitized Swiss, Swedish, and Portuguese banking ledgers revealed massive wartime gold transfers. Some accounts, under false names, were traced to Nazi officials who escaped to South America. A 2022 EU investigation identified unclaimed accounts linked to looted central bank reserves still valued in the billions. These findings suggest that part of Hitler's treasure may never have been buried. It was quietly preserved in the world's financial systems. The Amber Room mystery remains alive. In 2023, Polish researchers announced the discovery of crate fragments and amber pieces in a sealed bunker under Walbrzych. DNA and chemical tests matched the resin's origin to the original amber room panels. Excavation continues under strict government oversight. If confirmed, this would be the first physical proof of the amber room's location in nearly 80 years. The internet revolutionized public participation. Open-source researchers share high-resolution maps, transport logs, and excavation photos. Digital archives allow ordinary users to search through millions of wartime files. Forums and AI tools now crowd-analyze Nazi supply routes and storage records, turning history lovers into co-investigators. This global collaboration has uncovered new hints faster than most traditional institutions. The Wolf's Lair in modern-day Poland, one of Hitler's wartime headquarters, remains a prime search area. In 2021 to 2023, teams using radar mapping found underground chambers that had never been documented, metal containers buried beneath collapsed bunkers. While official excavations revealed no gold, recovered artifacts included SS insignia, weapons, and wartime documentation hinting that valuables were moved through the area near the war's end. With modern discoveries came renewed ethical questions. Should recovered gold belong to nations, descendants, or Holocaust victims' families? Who owns art that was seized 80 years ago but sold multiple times since? How can governments prevent looted relics from entering the black market? International organizations like UNESCO now oversee investigations to ensure transparency and restitution. Private and government-funded searches continue across Europe. Germany, Austria, and Poland maintain specialized treasure recovery units. Independent explorers still pursue hidden caches rumored to lie in alpine tunnels. Documentaries and digital expeditions regularly feature new findings and theories. In 2025, an AI-driven scan of the Bavarian Alps reportedly detected unusual metal deposits within an uncharted cavern, one still under study today. Despite all progress, Hitler's lost treasure remains partially unsolved. What we know today, over 100 tons of looted gold remain missing. Thousands of stolen artworks are still unaccounted for. The Amber Room's ultimate fate is still uncertain. But what's also clear, modern science has brought the world closer than ever to uncovering the truth. Whether the final treasures lie buried beneath alpine rock, locked in secret bank vaults, or scattered across the seas, the hunt continues, bridging past and present, fact and legend. The 2020s have shown that the mystery of Hitler's lost treasure is not a forgotten story but a living one, a quest that merges history, technology, and human curiosity. Each new clue deepens the legend, ensuring that the world's most famous treasure hunt will never truly end, until the last bar of gold, the last painting, and the last secret are brought to light, a mystery that refuses to die. 8 decades after the fall of Nazi Germany, the search for Hitler's lost treasure continues to captivate historians, adventurers, and the public. Billions in stolen gold, rare art, and cultural artifacts remain missing, scattered across continents, hidden in vaults, or buried in places where time itself seems frozen. What began as an organized campaign of wartime plunder has evolved into one of the greatest treasure hunts in human history. This final chapter looks at the most compelling theories, key conclusions, and the enduring legacy of the Nazi gold mystery. After decades of study, a few facts stand firm. Between 1939 and 1945, Nazi Germany looted enormous wealth, estimated today at over $200 billion in gold, cash, art, and valuables. Much of this wealth was used to fund the war effort, while the rest was hidden as defeat loomed. Several caches were recovered by the Allies, but huge portions vanished during the chaotic collapse of the Third Reich. Confirmed recoveries include gold reserves from Merker's Mine, 1945, thousands of artworks found in Austrian and German salt mines, dozens of private hoards uncovered in Europe and South America. Yet, by all reliable estimates, more than half of the Nazi treasure remains unaccounted for. 1. The hidden bunker theory. Many historians believe massive caches still lie buried in sealed underground tunnels, particularly in Bavaria, Germany, Lower Silesia, Poland, the Austrian Alps. Documents show the SS created hundreds of storage depots during 1944 to 1945 to hide art, gold, and confidential materials. Many were sealed by explosives as the Allies advanced. 2. The evacuation theory. Some treasure convoys were moved east and south to escape Allied capture. Evidence suggests convoys carried gold to Czechoslovakia and Austria. Nazi officers transferred valuables to neutral Switzerland or Portugal. Others fled with treasure to South America under false identities. These claims are partly supported by post-war financial investigations and survivor testimonies. 3. The Baltic Sea and sunken convoys. Records confirm that several ships left Königsberg and Gdansk in 1945, loaded with looted art and gold. Many sank under Soviet attack, possibly carrying the Amber Room, gold reserves from Eastern Europe, rare relics from private collections. Underwater scans continue to find shipwrecks matching the descriptions, but full recovery has never been achieved. 4. The secret bank theory. Not all treasure was physical. Some of the Reich's stolen assets were quietly transferred through neutral banking systems. Swiss, Swedish, and South American accounts may still contain converted Nazi gold, now hidden within legitimate investments. 5. The Soviet confiscation theory. A competing belief holds that much of the missing gold was actually taken by Soviet forces during their occupation of Eastern Europe. Documents suggest the Red Army captured entire trainloads of valuables, later dispersed into Soviet vaults. Moscow has never fully released its wartime records, keeping this theory alive. Even with credible evidence, certain stories have become part of global folklore. The lost gold train of Poland, a mysterious armored train buried in a mountain tunnel, unproven but endlessly searched for. The Hitler's last convoy legend, a secret column of trucks escaping through the Alps in 1945, vanishing into thin air. The Amber Room curse. Superstition claims anyone who gets too close to discovering it meets a tragic fate. These tales, blending truth and imagination, keep public fascination alive, ensuring the legend never fades. Over the past 2 decades, many finds have validated parts of these legends. Underground caches in Germany and Austria contained looted gold, jewels, and art. The Gurlitt Collection, 2013, exposed how deeply Nazi loot had permeated post-war art markets. Newly discovered documents, tunnels, and maps have confirmed Nazi efforts to hide treasures on an industrial scale. Technology has revealed just how vast the looting network was, spanning Europe, Asia, and even the Americas. No Nazi treasure story is complete without the Amber Room, a masterpiece of Baroque art looted from Russia in 1941. Transported to Königsberg and lost in 1945, It became the symbol of all missing wartime treasures. Recent discoveries, amber fragments, crate remnants, and Soviet files, suggest it was hidden in a bunker near Valbjik or sunk in the Baltic Sea. If ever found, it would be the single most valuable art recovery in modern history. Behind the glitter of gold and jewels lies the shadow of tragedy. Millions of people, especially Jewish families, lost everything: homes, businesses, art collections, family heirlooms. Each recovered item represents not just wealth, but a life interrupted. Modern restitution efforts aim to return art and assets to rightful heirs, repairing history one case at a time. The search for Nazi treasure has reshaped how nations treat cultural theft and wartime crime. Museums worldwide now audit their collections for looted art. International laws require the return of stolen cultural property. Historical institutions collaborate through digitized archives and shared databases. This enduring mystery has, ironically, improved the world's sense of justice and preservation. As of 2025, new tools make the impossible possible. AI-assisted archaeology predicts likely treasure sites. LiDAR and sonar map underground vaults and shipwrecks. Forensic finance algorithms track money trails from 1940s banks to modern corporations. The world may be on the brink of solving mysteries thought lost forever. The story of Hitler's lost treasure continues to fascinate because it combines history and adventure, greed and justice, truth and myth. It represents humanity's endless curiosity, the belief that somewhere, beneath the earth or beneath the sea, lies a buried truth waiting to be uncovered. It is a story not only of stolen gold but of the human desire to uncover the past. After 8 decades, countless searches, and immeasurable speculation, one fact remains clear: Hitler's lost treasure is more than gold. It is a reflection of how far humanity will go, for greed, for truth, and for remembrance. Somewhere, perhaps deep in an alpine vault, beneath the waters of the Baltic, or locked away in a bank under false names, the remnants of the Third Reich's treasure still exist. But even if it is never found, the story endures, as a warning, a lesson, and a legend that transcends time. From 1945 to today, explorers, soldiers, historians, and dreamers have chased the trail of Hitler's lost gold. Each generation adds a new chapter, and perhaps one day the final map, the last vault, or the missing ship will be found, bringing the greatest treasure mystery of the modern age to its close. Until then, the world keeps searching. Every story from history teaches us something powerful. If you enjoyed uncovering this untold chapter of World War II, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to History Unfolded. Join our mission to bring forgotten battles back to life. See you in the next story from the past. Till now, you can check our more videos on our channel.